This morning we'll take a look at the impact of a prolonged strike season on investor sentiment. Joining me now is Senior Economist at KPMG, Lulu Krugel. Lulu, good morning. Welcome to Morning News today. We've seen several strikes taking place. It's now the mines that have joined the fray. It was Sapau in the petrol and chemical industry, and we also saw the mining industry taking a bit of a knock. What does this do and say about our economy?
Well, first of all, the South African consumer is struggling, and that's probably why we're seeing a lot of strike action. This is normally the time of year when we do see strike action, but I suppose it's a bit more than other years because of the South African consumer being under pressure. So the consumers, being the workers, go out to the streets to show that they are not in a good place. The flip side of that is for business as well. It creates a difficult environment. We've seen that business confidence have slowly decreased over the last couple of months. So it shows that businesses are feeling the pain as well. We're not in such a good place as we would have hoped to be. And what's happening in the rest of the world is definitely having an impact on South Africa.
What does it do to investor sentiment when you're sitting somewhere in New York, you're sitting in Sweden, wherever you are in the world, and you want to invest in a country like South Africa? Does this also hurt investor sentiment?
Well, of course it creates uncertainty because nobody knows how long these strikes will be going on and what the impact of that would be on the economy. So yes, investors are definitely looking at this and wondering about the stability of the economy. Having said that, it's not something that's completely uncommon in the rest of the world, but given what we need to compete with in the developing market and with other developing economies, we as South Africa definitely want to send a message that things are stable here.
Speaking about investor sentiment, we've seen the recent Massmart deal. We've seen government coming into the fray, unions and labour coming out and saying that they don't necessarily want to stop this deal, but they would like to see exactly how it goes on. What does that also do to investor sentiment? Because people then look at South Africa not necessarily as a good place to invest as a result of that.
Well, I think one must see that in the context of what is happening in South Africa. We have a very high unemployment rate, much higher than a lot of other countries in the world. And one must keep that socio-economic context in the back of your mind when you plan to invest in South Africa and also in Africa. And I think investors are aware that it is a little bit of a different environment that they would see, let's say, in China and some other areas in the world. So they are aware that things might not be exactly the same. Having said that, if the reasons are good and the motivation is good, one can understand, but one must be careful not to scare away investors with actions like that.
The other big issue and the other big criticism that you often get in South Africa, and especially with people wanting to try and set up here in South Africa, is about our labour policies. Are they too stringent? Are they not allowing for people to want to come here and set up, especially in the manufacturing sector, which creates the most jobs?
If we compare South Africa and our labour practices to the rest of the world, unfortunately we don't compare very well. It means it's costly to employ people in South Africa, so it's not to do with the cost of salaries as much as the cost of actually fulfilling all the legal requirements that one has to fulfill. So yes, we don't necessarily compare very well with our counterparts in the rest of the world, and investors are looking at that and they are aware of that. So when ranking and comparing our country, we see that coming through, yes.
Lulu, very quickly, markets up or down this week? Are we expecting to see any positive gains being made this week?
It's such an uncertain environment, and unfortunately, yes. From an international perspective, the one day there's good news coming through, the next there's bad news. So I'm seeing a bit of still of an up and down week, definitely.
Okay, thank you very much. Always a pleasure having with us. That was Senior Economist at KPMG, Lulu Krugel.